Welcome, friends. I'm in the mountains doing a little camping, a little hunting, a little exploring. Like to share some stories with you. I'll share a little old story with you, a little campfire story, if you want to hear it. So pull up a chair, get you a cool drink, and I'll tell you a little old story. Well, anyway, this is an old mining story about some of my elders told me. They worked with an old guy in the mines back over here around Clearfield. And this is a story about an old guy. He worked there. He got to be, they was hiring some people. And they hired a guy that was an Indian, a Native American. He was a Cherokee. And he was, looking for work, so they give him a job. Well, they stuck him with this old man that was hand loading in a certain part of the mines as his buddy, helping him load these old coal cars. As you can see, it's pretty hard work. Well, they got to knowing each other pretty good day after day working in the mines. He turned out to be a pretty good worker. And he got to be real good friends with the old man. So they got to getting together a little bit on the weekend when they got a change off. He even come over to the house, he said. And wife would fix him dinner. Got to be a good friend. They got to doing a little bit of hunting, stuff together. And the old Native American, the old Cherokee, wasn't real old. He was probably as I say as his mid-30s. But he come from Oklahoma, he said. He come out here, this is where his people had come from. Before the Trail of Tears, he said. He was telling a little bit of story. Well, they got to knowing people, each other real good. And he got to going hunting with him. Well, when they was hunting in these mountains here in southeast Kentucky, north central Tennessee, he got to asking the old man questions. Do you know where this holler is, or this rock wall, or this rock formation? Well, that just went on for a while. They'd hunt here and there. And after a month or two, they still hunting a little bit on their time off when they wasn't working. And he said the old man took him to a certain rock formation that he'd been asking. Does this look like it? Said it looked like a hawk's beak or something, is what they said. I don't know the details on that, but he noticed that place. Because he'd been asking, different rock formations where this was and this, because that's where his people had come from. Well, he found a place that he was really interested in, so they hunted. Well, it went on Monday morning. The old guy didn't show up for work. The old man was worried about him. He didn't show up for the next day either. And he was worried about him. He couldn't find him or nothing else. Nobody's seen him, don't know nothing. Well, that went on for a few more days till the end of the week when it become payday. Well, when it's payday, the old man, he was worried to death about his friend. But when he picked up his paycheck, there's his buddy's paycheck was in with his and had a note. Said, I thank you so much for showing me these places and being my friend that I'm going to give you my paycheck. And, told him I'd see him later, and he never did. That's all he got. The Cherokee friend had given him his paycheck, and he'd left. And don't know why. Well, that puzzled the old man. He didn't care about the money. Of course, yes, he cared about the money, but he cared about his friends. They were good friends. Well, he got to studying on it and thinking, well, why did this guy leave? What was going on? And he got to thinking, well, he kept asking me certain rock formations and certain hollers in these mountains. So he thought he would just go back in there in the mountains where they's last at, where he was asking him all these questions. And when he got back there at that special rock, it looked like a hawk's beak or something, he said, that he noticed it. A big tree had been cut down, and it made a big ledge, a lever out of it under a rock, and had lifted the rock up and put another rock under it. And when he got to looking around, it's like something was dug out in a big hole under that rock. And he got to looking, and there was an English coin laying in that hole, barely covered up. He must have left that. And he was so puzzled with this. Well, all we can figure is that this story is that this Native American had come back from Oklahoma from his people that handed down through time and ancestry to him that before they left on the Trail of Tears, they hid the tribe's treasure of some kind under that rock. And had been handed down to him generation after generation. So when he found it, he found where he come here looking for it and made friends to people that knowed the area. So when he found it, he dug it up and took it back to Oklahoma, he figured. He never did hear from this guy again. But there's the story. So it makes you think. When the Native Americans left this area, was forced out, the Trail of Tears, how many things they've hid in these mountains, hollers, caves, and rocks to keep the settlers or the government from getting it. So they hid it. So that's a pretty good little story. Back when I was a little old bitty thing, I can remember sitting around listening to my elders talk stories like that. And it puzzles me, makes you think. So I hope you enjoyed this little story. I like sharing them with you so well. So y'all take care. God bless, and I'll see you next time.